Hey guys, this is Blake here. I'm here to quickly discuss my reviews of Attack Force and the Angry Video Game Nerd. Just as a reminder, this is reviewer Memoirs. If you want to see the actual reviews, just check the links in the description. First, for Attack Force, Steven Seagal is actually really interesting to talk about, well, at least for me. Mainly because he represents really the decline of the action movie as we know it. For example, notice how in the 90s all those guys eventually went downhill, from Van Damme to Seagal. Chuck Norris had already slid pretty far by that point, although he was rebounding gracefully with that Walker, Texas Ranger show. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone were also suffering pretty bad in the late 90s. The odd thing is sometime late 80s, early 90s, action films began to get really cheesy, and that was okay. People bought into it, like the Rambo sequels, especially the third one, Commando. Pretty much most of them were just really, really cheesy, and that was the thing. But then, I wonder maybe if Batman and Robin kind of ruined that trend, because then we started looking at cheese as crappy, and then for some reason, like, the 90s turned on what they'd created and started making fun of that. So that's why you have, like, Scream for the slasher movies, Boondock Saints for vigilante films, movies that pretty much spoofed the previous generation's films. So, unfortunately, nobody could really shake off that image. Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and especially Seagal, became sort of the butt end for a lot of jokes because people couldn't take them seriously anymore. That, and add to that, was Seagal's declining quality in general. Seagal was allowed too much power in his movies. He wanted to write and produce and all that stuff, and it worked badly for him and seeded some of his worst works. But then eventually, just like he reached a point where, shit, I tried too hard and nobody liked that, so I'm not going to try at all. And we like that even less, except now at least it's just low-budget crap instead of big-budget crap. Well, I guess in some ways I prefer big-budget crap. But it's just hard to take him seriously now more than ever. He's bloated, fat. For some reason, he always gets hot chicks. Everybody thinks that he's a super badass. It's almost like he's taking himself too seriously. Although I've actually heard that maybe he's not, and he just is intentionally making it look like he takes himself really seriously. But Attack Force, I wanted to review a Steven Seagal movie at the time, and that just happened to be what was up next on the Netflix list. And it really wasn't all that awful, to be honest. At the time, I'd even say it was probably the best movie I'd reviewed. I'd give it probably 2 stars, barely. It's just, I think, harmless direct-to-video action fluff, and that represents what most of his more recent movies are. For example, the last one I saw was The Keeper, also 2 stars. Very mediocre. But considering that a few years ago he was getting like 1 and 1.5 star worthy movies consistently, I guess I'll take that. And this review is just mediocre. It had some good stuff and some bad stuff. I was a little unfocused and the audio was pretty crappy, but there were a few jokes I liked, a few good points I thought I brought up, and it was just okay. Although I always forget that I did this one. It's like, I can remember Crazy Fat Ethel 2, Cat in the Brain Shock, Nightmare City, all of those, but I can never remember this one initially. So, that's kind of strange. Deleted scenes, unfortunately, I used to actually have deleted scenes for this, but I lost them when my computer crashed. It was just, in fact, I didn't include it because it was bad or anything, but I actually forgotten about it because I filmed it separately from everything else. So I'd already edited it and posted it by the time I remembered. But it was just really me going on my Steven Seagal impersonation where I was satirizing his movies. I'd be like, "You killed my wife, my brother, my father, my mother, my pet dog." So I'm just making fun of him on all the types of movies he's in. And I'd have it dubbed too, but that didn't make it into the final cut. And then that's pretty much it for that. But there was one really funny continuity error where I'm sitting like this, then when I make my first transition into being Steven Seagal, where my beard and mustache vanish, I'm like this. So that was pretty bad. I don't know how I screwed that up. And I always make fun of movies or continuity errors too, so I guess I can't really talk. But enough of that. I'm sure you're all more interested in my Angry Video Game Nerd review. I hate it. But the first time I heard of the nerd was from the Nostalgia Critic, one of his videos, and I thought he was really cool in that, so I decided to check out his videos. I think the first one was the Friday the 13th review. At the time, I wasn't really all that impressed. I thought it was just okay. It had some good parts, but otherwise it was just lots of profanity. But he grew on me. Once I got past all that, he actually is now one of my favorite reviewers. And what's interesting about him is that he really has no general focus. I mean, sometimes he's more information-oriented, and other times he's more technical-oriented. You never really know what to expect from the guy, and I think that's really interesting. One review that actually I thought completely embodies the nerd for all his awesomeness, even though it's a different kind of review, is where he's reviewing those, I can't even remember what they were, but they're based off the 4 elements, and if you won, you'd get like a golden crown or something, and they had a bunch of prizes like that. That actually was really interesting, and that's what I like about the nerd. He could sometimes be really informative and interesting, and he's also pretty funny. But yeah, I'd say he's definitely one of the best, if not the best, video reviewers out there, at least in my opinion, because he just tackles everything so professionally. And I really hate this review, and I'm ashamed of it. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. I got sick when I was supposed to film it, which I usually film these videos at night, because before I got new curtains, if you've noticed, actually I have new curtains now, the glare would be too bright, and sometimes you could even see that in my videos. It's really distracting. So when I couldn't film it at night, I decided I'd film it the next day. But I was still pretty sick and pretty out of it. But I filmed it from pretty much this angle. So my Once Upon a Time in Mexico poster is right behind me. You can even see a little bit of it right over here. But so that was an odd change of location I had never really brought up. The writing was okay, but my acting was horrendous. AVGN has nothing on me when it comes to being bad in terms of acting, at least when I'm at my worst. Just horrible delivery, took forever for me to do, and I used a different editing software, new movie maker software. I used to use that Windows Movie Maker, which sucks, but was fine at the time. But then somebody suggested I think it's just called Video Editor Pad or something like that. I can't remember. Video Pad Editor. So I tried that. I had no idea what I was doing, and that's really, I think, why the editing suffered so much, is I burnt myself out on it, even though I still use it, and I've gotten pretty good at it, and it's actually a better editing software. I had no idea what I was doing, so the editing was really poor. At one point, it actually looks like I'm about to say something, but then I cut away, and that was pretty messed up. And 'cause it's just brings so much attention to itself. And also, there's another part where I had a similar thing, but I think it was just an audio scene, so you can't see that as well. But what that scene that I was supposed to do was just, I think I say, you pretty much find yourself bitching at the game along with the nerd. Well, you just pretty much see clips of me cursing at the screen, and then clips of the nerd cursing at the scene. It would have been a dumb joke, and I'd like to think I would have cut it out anyway. But how I missed cutting out that little part was beyond me. It was a very stressful review, and it showed. It was a really shitty-ass review. Probably my worst. Even though I've actually heard some people say that it's my best, which is kind of weird. Not many people say that, but I have heard comments to that point. So that's pretty much it for this. One was an okay review, one was a shitty one. That's all. My name is Marshall Horror. My motto is, if you're going to have systematic diarrhea, then at least have the decency to wait.